On today's show, we're going to be talking about why the Clippers are so bad without Kawhi Leonard, because that performance was an absolute joke, especially in the third quarter, and James Harden continues to struggle. Let's talk about the lack of depth on this roster. Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On. Thought we had momentum, but we don't. Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, and in the closing stages of my 19th regular season as a Clipper fan. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod, and subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, where I went live directly after the loss against the Kings to talk about it. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, where I want you to let me know why you think the Clippers are so bad without Kawhi, because that's what I'm going to be talking about. The performances of James Harden and Paul George, who were expected to, fill the void. Obviously, you cannot replace Kawhi Leonard, but step up in his absence, and we didn't quite get that. And then the lack of depth on this roster, because it's something that I don't think I've addressed enough and we really need to talk about. So let's just start out with this game against the Sacramento Kings. They didn't have Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, who are obviously going to be out for an extended period of time. We didn't have Kawhi. I talked about it on the last episode where I but I kind of compared playing the Mavericks versus playing the Pelicans in the first round, because that's the conversation that everybody's having right now in Clipper Nation talk. But here's the thing, right? We're not super safe as is. And Kawhi Leonard didn't play in this game and was sent back to Los Angeles. Now, granted, it's only a 1-hour flight from Sacramento. But if it's just load management, why would Kawhi Leonard be leaving the team? Ty Lue said he's getting treatment back at home. Treatment for what? He said he picked it up against the Hornets. We didn't see anything. We didn't see any discomfort from the TV screen. So I'm just hoping, with the 3 games in 4 nights thing coming up at home this weekend, that it's just the 3rd game of load management that Kawhi has had all season. But I don't think it's that serious, personally. I don't have any inside source on that, but I don't think it's that serious. I'm still knocking because we're so freaking close, and we didn't see anything particularly wrong with him, and he closed the game well. And we have had some scares where he's missed one game. Like the Golden State game, we didn't realize it was load management till Kawhi in the All-Star game presser said, "What injury?" Like he dismissed it so quick, like, what are you guys talking about? Like maybe as if he didn't even know. And then the other game was, I forget who we were playing, to be honest. I remember the game that he actually missed was against Milwaukee with Paul George, where we load managed him because we had played a very hectic stretch there. Oh, that was the second game, 2 games in less than 24 hours thing. But anyway, this game against the Kings, it actually didn't start too bad. We had a very solid defensive energy to begin. Norman Powell started in place of Kawhi Leonard. And as far as matchups go, we had Terrence start on De'Aaron, PG on Keegan Murray, Zubac on Sabonis, Norman Powell on Keon Ellis, who's starting in place of Kevin Huerter, and then James Harden on Harrison Barnes. And of course, we're going to switch 1 through 4 and have Sabonis and Zubac in drop coverage. As far as them, they had De'Aaron Fox guarding James Harden. I thought it would be Keon Ellis, but the reason why they did that is because Norm is so active off the ball, and we run him through so many sets and coming off so many screens off ball. I think they wanted to have Keon Ellis guard that, even though it is debatable, what's more taxing. I think guarding on the ball with James Harden might be a little more taxing, but who knows what the conversations were within the Kings coaching staff or among Keon Ellis and De'Aaron Fox themselves. But pretty good job by the Kings. I think they look like this season, the last 2 times mainly that we've played them, they look like a much better defensive team. And one thing you got to think about with them is Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter, they're offense-first players. Defensively, they might be two of the worst players in that rotation. You take them out of the equation, while your offense might not be as explosive, you have less weak links on the defensive end. Because Kevin Huerter and Malik Monk, with all due respect to them, they're two guys that the Clippers have looked to put in pick and roll in the past. But yeah, I thought the Kings did a pretty good job. Sabonis was in drop coverage, at times high drop against Harden. And I actually think in the first half, when he was in drop coverage, James Harden got some really good looks for us. Had some nice dump downs into Zoo. Had some nice passes over the top to Paul George or Zoo. So I thought it was actually a good playmaking first half from James Harden. But somebody that we struggled with on the other end was Keegan Murray. We actually did a very good job on De'Aaron Fox, and a lot of that was Terrence Mann. Had a very good defensive first half. I've been very critical of Terrence's defense lately, saying that he hasn't had a good defensive game in over a month. And you know what? After this one, he still hasn't. He had a good half defensively, but in the second half, I thought he was poor on both ends. But Keegan Murray and Sabonis were really the constants for them throughout the game. And Keegan Murray, he definitely has improved. Defensively, he's improved. And the clear scouting report from us was to run him off the three-point line. Last season, the guy set a record for most threes made by a rookie in NBA history. We're running him off the line. He's making plays. He's driving and hitting floaters. And one thing that the Kings do is they run a very motion-based offense, which only the Nuggets and the Warriors really do. That's a really great conversation to have of why more teams don't run movement offenses. But a lot of it is the personnel. Do you have guys that are willing to move off ball and are good at it? Keegan Murray, a lot of those off-ball actions, teams switch. And in that moment of space that you get when a switch is being made as the offensive player, you can attack that space. Keegan Murray at times was coming off these off-ball screens, these dribble handoffs, and he was curling into our guys. And when we don't have Kawhi Leonard and Sabonis is the one setting the screen, kind of drawing the big man out, what do we have on the backside? Not much. So just think things came a little easy to the Kings as the game went on. We were actually tied 24-24 after the first quarter. And it was interesting that the Clippers went with Daniel Tice instead of Mason Plumlee, which, again, I'm pro Daniel Tice in that. But they're both fairly mediocre. You know what I'm saying? The reason why we got Daniel Tice was to supplement Mason Plumlee. But the fact that Daniel Tice has put himself in the conversation of, okay, he might need to be our backup center, does that say more about Mason Plumlee not being good enough? Because Daniel Tice is a solid player, but I don't know if he can. How many minutes can he really play in the playoffs? And who is Ty Lue going to go with? Because he's been flip-floppy with this. I don't know. It's very trivial, to be honest, in this game. Tice didn't do much. But we were up by 2 points, actually, when Paul George came out towards the end of the first quarter. By the time he came back in, we were down by 13, and we had already gone down by as many as 16. I thought it was very interesting that that Russell Westbrook made 2 shots, tough shots, right when he came in the game. And he was taken out at the 10-minute and 44-second mark of the second quarter, and James Harden virtually got no rest. And that definitely was weird. And it just shows that I don't know what Russ can do. James Harden just has this authority on this team now and this trust from Ty Lue and the coaching staff. And they started blitzing Harden with Alex Len. And there was one time where he created a really bad turnover where Harden threw the ball away around half court. They scored and then made it an 11-point game. We called timeout. And to make matters worse, the Kings are just getting into the paint very frequently, and they're kicking it out to shooters who are wide open, but some of them are being left open by design, a la Davion Mitchell, and he was actually making us pay. So that was just tough to see. And the funny part is the Kings actually shot 29% from 3 in the game, 42% from the field. So they didn't even shoot that well. But Davion Mitchell, at one point he had a contested 3 in the second quarter. He shot 5 for 10 from the field and 4 for 7 from 3. So there you go. He was just getting very annoying. But we were able to weather the storm a little bit going into halftime, and it was largely because of Paul George and Norman Powell. But Norm was starting to cook, obviously catch and shoot on the move. There was one time where he dished it off to Zoo, who I thought had a really rough first quarter. We did give him the ball more, just like I've been preaching, but he just didn't have a good shooting game around the basket. I personally don't think that's consistent. I know a lot of people are going to say that I'm making excuses for him. fine. You're entitled to your opinion. Zubac has been very efficient around the basket this season. We gave him the ball more. He just didn't make shots in this game. But in the second quarter, I thought he had some great activity around the basket defensively, changing shots, rebounding, and finishing around. Not really finishing around the basket, but he had a couple of dunks and finishes on rolls and stuff like that. And as I said, Terrence defensively in the first half, he was very good. But at halftime, we went into it down 51-56. And then in the second half, it all went horrifically wrong. There's not much really to talk about in the fourth quarter at all. And by the way, the fourth quarter, the Kings shot 31% from the field and 8% from three. So I honestly subtract the stats from them. So in actuality, they were really 11 for 30 from three. So that's still not that great. But the third quarter is where we completely fell apart, got outscored 35-19. It was a complete and utter disaster. We were turning it over all quarter. Terrence was missing shots. I don't like how he continues to pass up shots frequently, even though he's shooting a lot better from three in the new year. Paul George played the entire quarter and shot only 4 times without Kawhi Leonard, which is inexcusable. We were constantly giving the ball to Harden over and over again. He had 0 points in the quarter, 0 for 2. Both of his shots were threes. They were blitzing and getting the ball out of his hands. I thought Zoo was average in the short roll. And we just don't have enough guys that can attack closeouts. And James Harden, we needed him to score more, and that was completely pathetic. And Russell Westbrook and James Harden, their defensive effort was terrible. Russ has not played defense in 2 months, to be honest. After he has heard that he can't win all defense, he's not been staying attached. I completely get, though, that he's discouraged. He can't do anything to get more minutes. Russ is a player that has to work through his mistakes. He made several of them in this game, going too fast, turned the ball over, missing a dunk, for God's sake. But the thing is, he still scored 20 points and was our leading scorer. A lot of that was in garbage time. But my thing with Russ is he's at least going to go balls to the wall. And you're going to take the good and the bad with Russ. But here's the thing. We got to start saying this about Harden more. It's really bad what's happening to him right now. I mean, 1 for 7, 1 for 5 from 3. In 12 of the last 13 games, he has not shot 50% or higher. And he was very efficient to start the year. And in 7 of the last 11, he's shot under 40%. He shot 33%, I believe, I was either 33 or 31% for the month of March from deep. The dude is struggling massively. And Terrence and Amir are not giving us anything in this game. And the way we just got out-rebounded, did the little things wrong, it was like they gave up. This team is a joke without Kawhi. And a complete joke. And I thought we got James Harden for this reason. And coming up, we're going to be talking more about James Harden. I got to tell you a little something about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, Clippers losing this one by a score of 109-95. The fourth quarter, there's nothing even to talk about. Russ had a good quarter. He had, I believe, 11 of his 20 points in the fourth. So again, garbage time. Doesn't move me at all. Brandon Boston had 6 points on 2 for 2 shooting in the fourth. Tice, Brandon, and Russ played the entire fourth. And Amir basically played the entire fourth. And he had a bad game. Before I talk about the lack of depth, I got to start with James Harden. In the third quarter, we turned the ball over 6 times. Harden actually only had 1 of those turnovers. but he is just not looking like he can score 20 points easily anymore. Straight up. They blitzed him. I get it. But he has, and this is the problem with Harden, like he gives nothing off the ball, and he's not even making his catch and shoot threes anymore. He doesn't take it without hesitation. He has a slower release, and he kind of waits. You know, it's not a quick release. It's not like he's catching and looking to shoot. He always seems to think about it, and he's not even making it when he is shooting it recently. He's not getting by any good defenders in isolation, which I said before we even got him was going to be a thing later down the line. He looks old, and we keep playing him so much. I don't know what Ty Lue and them were thinking playing him this much throughout the season. You know what's funny is I called it for 2 months. I said it. I'm worried about Harden playing so many minutes because he's gotten gassed in the past. See, people call me a hater. I'm sorry that I just watch more basketball than you. Like, I'm sorry that I just pay attention to other teams more than you over the course of my life because I've seen James Harden. He might be able to revive for a couple of good games in the playoffs, but championship is out the window. I don't think he can create enough shots. And we're going to need him to be a little better than this. People think that, like, we're just not – it's going to be okay if he scores 8 points. Like, not with the way Paul George is. You want Kawhi – it's not like Kawhi is going to be able to be superhuman every game. I just don't think that's feasible. And our depth has also been very questionable. I'm going to talk about them in the last segment, but James Harden just – he runs the offense so slowly. In the second half, his defensive effort was poor. So many situations where he's closing out without a hand up. It's very infuriating. He just doesn't really care about defense. It's pick and choose for him, and it's always been like that. He plays D in stretches, but I can't remember the last time. It's been years, maybe a decade plus, he's been in a defensive stance for real. Okay, that's a little harsh. In the post, he gets down and dirty, but facing up, not a real. He's hunched over a little bit, ready to reach. Like, it's just such foolish. It's classic, like, trying to anticipate and get a steal, clever defense, but not really moving your feet and doing the gritty trench work because he's not a good lateral defender. And so when he's not when the pick and roll is taken away from him, that's it. But Paul George, like 12 shots, like there's one thing, it's two things. One, it's Paul George's lack of assertiveness in this game. You need to be demanding the ball. I mean, 5 for 12 in the game. Okay, that's not the best percentage, but how are you only shooting 12 shots with Kawhi out? Like, that's absurd. It's unacceptable. 2 for 5 from 3, and he got to the line 6 times and made all of them. Like, it's just the ball was in James Harden's hands so much. So much. It's getting so annoying to me. Like, he's not creating the same advantages consistently. He's just not. He had some assists in this game. Most of them came in that second quarter. Let's see how many he had in the second quarter. 5. 5 assists out of 8 came in that quarter. So as I said, the eye test matches up. He actually wasn't bad there, but the Kings aren't some amazing defensive team either. We're going to be playing only better teams in the playoffs. Inevitable in my eyes. I've been saying this, and I was called a hater. It's just basketball, guys. I have my opinion. It's not just James Harden's fault. Paul George, I mean, as I said, 18 points, 12 shots. It's not good enough. But the ball's in this guy's hands so much. And a lot of that's on Ty Lue, too. What's up with, look, I get it. People don't like Westbrook's game. He's erratic. He makes mistakes. But, you know, I think if you give Westbrook extended time, he's going to have those stretches where he completely changes games for the better. I think right now we're getting 70% of the bad that Russ does and then 30% of the good. In this role, what he does is he comes in, he's like, okay, I'm not going to be in that long. I got to make an impact quick. So he looks to attack and score every time down, and I just don't like that. I don't think that's what we brought Russ in for initially. We brought him to set the table for 2-on-3, but then we said, you know what? We don't think you're good enough, so we're going to bring your friend in for you instead, who is better at the moment, but also doesn't have the best playoff reputation, but instead of a guy that goes too hard and is out of control, he oftentimes does not put an effort that you expect from a star player in elimination games multiple years. So it's like, yeah, I would take James Harden over Russ all time, which is going to, I'm sorry, Russ fans. I love Russ, but James Harden, I would take him over Russ all time. But I just, there are aspects of Russ's game that I just think translate better to high-level basketball, if that makes sense. At this stage, James Harden, when he was a number one option, like, he's just, his skill set and his offense was just too great. But at this stage, I still think James Harden's a better player. But the gap isn't as wide to me as what Ty Lue and most Clipper fans that are pro Harden think it is, in my opinion. It's not a fact, but I just think Russ comes in, and this is part of the fault of Russ, no doubt about it, but he comes in, he knows he's not getting that many minutes, and he's not trying as hard on defense. He is, pressing constantly to go to the basket. I think, though, if you just did this, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if you gave Russ the leash that you gave Harden, you would see a lot better defensive effort, I promise, and he's going to get assists because he's playing with Kawhi and Paul, and you're just going to see a higher pace and a higher defensive intensity, I believe. But we didn't want to. That's why we traded for James Harden in the first place. You got to reap what you sow. Lawrence Frank, Jerry West, all those guys. So, and the players, quite frankly. But, hey, here's hoping that he can turn it around. Paul George, not good enough. But coming up, going to talk about the depth that wasn't good enough. I got to tell you a little bit about Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/FireTV. All right, Clippers losing this one. Almost said winning. Snapped their 3-game winning streak. Jesus. 109-95. Kings are now 44-31. Clippers are 47-28 and only have one more road game left this season, which is amazing. We got 3 home games coming up. I'll be at every single one. So that'll be cool. Got the Denver Nuggets next, though. They did not have Jamal Murray on Tuesday, so I hope, and they barely beat San Antonio. If they start Reggie against us without Jamal Murray, I think we can actually beat them. I really do, because they're out here barely beating the San Antonio Spurs. But, oh, boy, we need Kawhi. If we don't have Kawhi, we're a joke. We're seriously a joke. And it's crazy because we got James Harden 4 games like that. And the fact that he can't even score 20 points, no burst, none. Anyway, how about the depth or the lack of it? Okay, if it's a Zubats, he had a double-double still. He was 5 for 14. It was a rare bad shooting game for him. But 10 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal and a block, and there was a stretch in the game, second quarter mainly, where he was completely affecting shots. James Harden, if I didn't mention his stat line already, I'm gonna just mention the stat line of Paul George too. 18 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. I just feel like we didn't have Paul George in pick and roll much in this game. Just way more James Harden and Russell Westbrook with the ball. Occasional ISOs for Paul, but just not much pick and roll. Which I think the way Paul's been playing, you should just give him the ball almost as much as Harden at this point. 5 for 12 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, 6 for 6 from the line in 29 minutes. James Harden, by the way, Paul George didn't play at all in the fourth because the game was already decided. James Harden, 6 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 turnovers on 1 for 7 shooting, 1 for 5 from 3, 3 for 4 from the foul line. I mean, 6 points in this game, 6 points in the last game, 11 against Orlando. He hasn't scored 20 points since March 6th against Houston. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games in a row under 20. You've got to be concerned at some point. Terrence Mann, just not good enough in my opinion. He just hasn't been good enough all season, quite frankly, and that's my favorite player. He has not been good enough all season, and I think the three-point shot has gotten better in the second half of the season, but it's gotten better that he doesn't let it fly. He doesn't just shoot it without hesitancy. It's very annoying because the thing is, when he does, the defense will respect it a bit more, and then he can do what he does best, which is attack closeouts, get downhill, and make a play or finish at the basket. But, he's hesitant constantly. He plays like he's 22, but he's 27. And defensively, I thought he was better in the first half, but second half, nothing much to report. No moments of good D, Terrence. Amir Coffey, similar kind of situation. By the way, so as for his stat line, Terrence Mann, he played 27 minutes, 7 points on 3 for 5 shooting and 0 for 1 from 3, 1 for 2 from the foul line, just 1 rebound and 1 assist, 2 turnovers. So not a great game for him. He shot well, but just doesn't move me. It's not the Terrence Mann that I'm used to. And again, playing a slow pace is not in favor of Terrence Mann. Russell, am I going to get to Russell Westbrook yet? Man, James Harden shot 14%. Oh, Amir Coffey. Yeah, Amir, he was very disappointing. I just wanted to check Terrence Mann's three-point percentage first in the month of March. 42%, 42% in the month of February, and 48% in January. Like, insane to me. Insane to me that this guy is shooting 40+% in every single month of the new year and is just not letting it fly. It's just insane. And he's going to have to be much better with that if we're going to get to where we want to get. Amir Coffey, really bad game. I have nothing good to say about the way he played in this game. 3 points on 1 3 that he made out of 4 attempts. He was 1 for 6, played 23.5 minutes. No moments of good defense that I can think of. Just bad. Needed better. Norman Powell is the only guy on this team that I can rely on. And it's funny that Kawhi and Norm are the 2 guys I can rely on this team because they're the only 2 champions. But people like to say, oh, but a ring is a team accomplishment. Individuals make up the team that wins, ladies and gentlemen. And those 2 guys are champions for a reason. Kawhi Leonard and Norm. And they were in the rotation. The Raptors' rotation was not crazy. It was 8 deep in the playoffs. Van Vliet, Ibaka, and Norm came off the bench. Then they started Kyle Lowry, Danny Green, Kawhi, Siakam, and Marc Gasol. That was it. Like 8 guys. Those 8 guys, you better be damn good at basketball to be getting minutes at that level. And a lot of it is not doing things wrong. Like Norm Powell, he doesn't really do many things wrong. Okay, he foul baits a little bit sometimes. Maybe takes some bad shots. It's like he takes a bad shot like 1 out of every 3 games, if we're being honest. His defense isn't great. He was the only below average defender in that all those 8 guys I named. 1 out of 8. Can't say the same about us. Amir Coffey, 1 for 6. Brandon Boston played. Again, I don't think he was actually very good. And usually when he gets rotation minutes, I think he's decent. But he just hasn't had consistent burn. He's not ready to contribute to a championship team yet like this. Unless you give him minutes from the beginning of the season and let it play out. You just can't do this. You just can't and expect great results. Either end of the floor, he was very mediocre, to put it nicely. In the game, he had 9 points. But as I said, 6 of those points of the 9 came in the fourth quarter in garbage time. The 1 3 he made that was relevant was at the end of the first quarter. And then was it Keegan Murray? Or I think it was Trey Lyles that answered back with a 3 to beat the buzzer at the end of that first quarter. But not enough from the role players. Daniel Tice played 18 minutes, 3 points, 1 for 3. It wasn't good. And then, Norm Powell, 17 points, 4 for 7 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and 6 for 6 from the line. Like, the dude's just so consistent. And then you have Westbrook, 20 points, 2 boards, 2 assists, 4 turnovers, 7 for 14 from the field. So you like the efficiency. And 2 for 3 from 3 and 4 for 4 from the line. But again, 11 of that 20 came in the fourth when it was done. It's just like the Clippers, we've only played 9 guys all year. And it's like guys 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, they've not contributed anything. And we don't really give them a chance to. And it's guys that are very young that are not ready to contribute to a championship team right away. And if you want to get them better, you got to give them consistent reps. And we just don't really have time to give those guys those reps. I think Brandon Boston could have been somebody, but if you had to plan it out in the beginning of the season, like just trying now in the second half is like, no way. Amir Coffey. And you know what? Maybe he's not even ready. He might not even be, but it's like, how would we know? This is not a good enough sample size to me. It's just not. It's not consistent. Give him 20 straight games where he plays, and then we can see. 20 straight. No interruption. And we can see. Maybe he can't even be, if he wants to get in a rotation, he's got to go to a worse team. But, I mean, Amir Coffey, Tice, Russ, Norm, and then the starters. We've just played these guys the whole season, and they're older, getting worn out. We didn't have strength in numbers, and it's crazy because imagine if they had gotten hurt. What would we have been able to do? It's funny because last year we said we had too much depth, that guys that were good weren't playing. We actually seemed like that we had the perfect amount before the trade. We definitely lost some depth. But Roko's been out a lot this season. So I don't even know how much we would have had him. But it would have been nice to have KJ Martin and Nico, to be honest. But can't go back in time. And then not addressing anything at the trade deadline was just a massive mistake. Because these guys, like, why did we get Josh Primo? Like, what was the point of that? Musa's still not ready. Kobe Brown, we tried and they just kind of gave up too fast. PJ Tucker's is not good. So, hey, man, it's not a great situation right now. We got Denver next, but I think we can beat them if we have Kawhi and they don't have Jamal Murray. If they have Jamal Murray, could be in major trouble. But thankfully, the Mavericks lost, so they were kind of breathing down our necks. Lost, so we have a little bit of a safety net. We still could get the third best record in Clipper history. Got 7 games left of this thing. Good news is Paul George is healthy. Kawhi, who we'll see. But let me know what you guys think of the episode. As far as the Kings, I mean, Sabonis had 22, 20, and 9. I think if it's a Zubats, I mean, he did have double-digit rebounds, but he could have been even better. I thought, by the way, one moment the game really changed was Harden missed 2 wide-open threes, and they took advantage of it after he had poorly contested 1 or 2. And the Kings started hedging on PG as well when he was in pick and roll. So trying to make Zoo make reads in the short roll. And at times I thought he didn't look very good going downhill like that. I think his floater is improved, but I think his jump hooks and his finishes around the restricted area are money. But that running floater is still a work in progress for him. Something that Jokic is super amazing at. But yeah, Harden and Russ's defense was such a takeaway in the third. I mean, it was so bad. But Zoo could have been better as well. We needed better from him. 22, 20, and 9 for Sabonis. 20 rebounds, 7 offensive. He was a beast. De'Aaron Fox didn't actually have a great game. He was held to 6 for 20 shooting and 1 for 7 from 3. But Davion Mitchell, 14 points. And then Trey Lyles, 15 points. And Keegan Murray with 19. So, tough game for us against a solid Kings team. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. Look, the team wasn't serious in this game, was lazy, bad passes off target, not getting into their stuff quick. Didn't want it that bad, I guess. But we need Kawhi. Hopefully he's fine. Make sure you comment on the video. Why are we so bad without Kawhi? Both ends of the floor, we look like a totally different team. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.